This family knows what to do, just as your own family should.
It's like I always want to push the envelope. I always want to understand things, and I always want to succeed. And failure is like not an option. But when there's certain things that you can't do, I'm a problem solver. So like, why can't I do this? Why isn't X working? How do I solve this problem? And when you can't solve the problem and you fail, and then you try it again and you fail, and you fail and fail and fail, and then you beat yourself up because you're failing. Yeah, I think I was diagnosed in early elementary for not being able to read and write and stuff for like at the grade level that I was at. I mean, I could write, but I couldn't spell. I would focus on the words so much that I couldn't comprehend what I was reading. So I'd be trying to sound out the word and stuff. So like I could eventually figure it out, but the comprehension of it just wasn't there. Well, what they decided to do is pull me out of class in front of everybody, go to this special room, and they would help me take that test, which was great because I went from failing to getting A's because the teacher would read the questions to me and I would get every single answer right, including the bonus. But if I were to sit down and try and take it on my own, I'd fail because I couldn't comprehend the questions. So when you get up, what do kids like to do? They make fun of you. When I saw my brother being the popular kid and my other brother, fit in and had his friends, I wanted to kind of follow in those footsteps. And I wasn't able to. They were here and I always felt like I was down here. And I mean, it's like my parents didn't treat me that way. And as hard as I would try, I would never succeed. I'd always fail at those things. That was just kind of like what stuck in my head is they do it, why can't I? My dad started seeing it as like, you can be your own person. You don't have to follow in your brother's footsteps all the time. And he started doing a lot of video stuff through his work. So I kind of gravitated a little bit more towards the video side. I was in the elementary school TV group and started being like, this is fun. And I was the one staying after school for computer club when everyone else was going out and hanging out. So instead of trying to keep up with my brothers, I started being like, how can I be better at this thing that I'm finding a little bit of joy in? And then the moment I found that happiness, people would start stepping on it. Like I would literally get punched. I had to get pushed into lockers, books knocked out of my hands, just for being into computers. So in middle school, no one wanted to be friends with me. And I sat at the little round table by myself because I was the nerd, I was the geek. I didn't want my only friends to be my parents, and my brothers. It's like, it was to the point where I was trying to fit in so much with the popular kids, I started dressing like them, and they would talk to me a little stuff, and it was like, I think they're starting to be friends with me. So they asked me to go to the movie with them, and I'm like, all right, I fit in, all right, dressing like them worked. We're gonna go to the movies together. Might have some friends out of this. So go to the movie, my mom drops me off, and I'm sitting there waiting for everybody to show up, got my ticket, looking at the clock, movie started, no one shows up. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, where is everybody? I'm at the wrong movie theater. No one shows up. So go to the payphone, call my mom, have her pick me up. Just started bawling in the car. I knew exactly what happened. They set me up to go to the movie by myself. I had no intention of showing up to that movie. Go to school the next day. Hey, how was that movie? So it was just that kind of like, just nonstop, just beat me down. If this is life, why even be here? Why am I going to put up with this stuff? It's like, yeah, my parents love me and stuff, but like, I'm not having fun. This isn't anything I want to be a part of. And you look at yourself as somebody who never succeeds and fails all the time. You kind of look at yourself as a burden. So why be here? You start questioning if you even want to live. And then that starts spiraling out. So then you start questioning, well, how do I want to die? So yeah. You feel like you're the only one who's ever gonna feel this way. That you're on this island by yourself and no one's gonna understand. And you don't wanna share that with anybody because it's like a sign of weakness, or it's just another sign of failure. I don't know if this is my brother. We've never talked about it. I don't know if this was his intention or my mom told me he had to take me to school, kind of situation. I started hanging out with him a lot more, and him kind of bringing me in helped a lot. I started to feel like him as a brother was also turning into a friendship. And then one day his car had a ton of hail damage on it, so we took it to this guy to help paint it. And in his shop was this sprint car. And it was a car I've never seen before. I didn't know what a sprint car was. And I'm like, man, that thing's cool. It looks like an open frame car. So the guy just starts showing me all the components of it, the big tires, the motor that's exposed. I was like, I have to know how this motor works. I have to know why the suspension works.
What do you use for baffles on the inside?
It's a baffle box.
Oh, it came that way.
It's 2 metal rows to keep it.
So I thought you modded the one that we did.
No,
this is a
this is
completely
a
different
completely different one.
Okay.
So I started just diving in. So I'm probably 15 at this point, going to this guy's shop, and he just kind of took me in and was showing me stuff. And we started working on cars, and he'd always just ask me, like, hey, what's going on? How's life? All those thoughts, the negativity and stuff kind of just go away. You're trying to figure out the problem with this motor, like maybe why one cylinder's not firing. So you're working on this together, and you start creating that bond for that one outcome of fixing that element.
It's a village. All of us work together to go faster.
When I got to a certain point, you start realizing how much computers and all these things that you were getting made fun of earlier for, how important they are to cars now. So people were coming to me, not to bully me anymore, but because they needed help on their cars. Like, hey, what do you want to do after school? All right, I'll be over, put that new downpipe on, or, we'll try and do this, ECU flash, and try and see if we can't do a little bit faster telephone pole time. Colwitt was, I think we were at like Kokomo Speedway. Colwitt raced for top tier team, huge funds. Right rear goes flat. He comes off, goes into the kind of hot pits, and his team can't get to him quick enough. A guy that comes home after work, works on his car, he's the first one out there, helps him get his car back on the track. Now here's somebody that could easily have been like, that's one less top tier team I gotta race against. But instead he's helping him get back into the race. You're competing for the checkered flag, and here's a guy helping his competition stay in the race. It's one of the craziest things to see, and it's everywhere. It's in all racing. You can meet somebody that you've never talked to before in your entire life, and you can sit there and have an hour conversation about a car. And that passion and that drive is contagious. And when you're when you see somebody down, you don't want to be down because you've been there, you know what it feels like, and you don't want anybody else to feel that way. I mean, you see it at autocross, that if a car goes down, you'll see 6 guys running out there with jacks or a fire extinguisher and stuff to help that person either push the car back, jump start it, get them back on the track. And that's their competition. They don't care because it's a car person. It's somebody in their community they want to help. It just kind of clicked that it's like, if I can talk to somebody that I never met before about a motor or a car build for hours on end, why can't I talk to that same person about mental health? Why can't we use that same kind of mentality to help them when they're down mentally? If you got a cold, you take some medicine. You break an arm, you get a cast. But you're not afraid to tell anybody about it. You're not afraid to walk around with a cast on your arm. But when you are battling depression or your OCD or bipolar, whatever you're battling, you hide it because you're afraid of being judged for that. That stigma around it makes that person feel even more isolated and even more alone. So if you can break that stigma, people aren't going to feel alone anymore. They're not going to go down that spiral and start questioning things that they, I hope, never question. If the motor never gets to working, you're just at peace because you realize you can always work on it and make it better. You can always either figure out the problem or fine tune it and make it faster. It's never done, and that's okay in a car. You can always push that envelope and you can always engineer something a little bit better. And if it fails, you can rebuild it. And I started looking at that as kind of like my life, where something can fail and you just got to work on it a little bit and make it better. And it's like, well, if I can do that with a car or a computer, or this little bit fails, it's okay. And you start looking inward and you're just like, it's okay if I fail at this one thing, because over here we're going to work on this and we're going to make it better.